Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Eric and I like to read, and today I'm going to be doing the best books that I read in 2020. So, as many of you know, 2020 has been pretty crappy, but that being said, a lot of us were stuck at home and we got to read a lot more books. So, I actually read a lot of books this year. It was kind of hard to narrow down which books were the best books of 2020, but I did manage to get, I think it's around like 11 to 14. You'll see what I mean once I get into it, but yeah, I'm excited to talk about these books. I feel like I've talked about these books a lot over this past year, and I feel like you've heard me talk about these books a lot over this past year, but some of these might surprise you, so let's just get into it. The first books on this list are a trilogy, which I feel like most of you will know what this trilogy is. I may have been talking about it recently and been very excited about it, and that is TheIlluminae Files. So we have the first one, and then we have Gemina, and then we have Obsidio. So these books were fantastic. I absolutely adored them. The best part about these books is that they all could have kind of been standalones, but they also tied together in each one. And in each book, they follow the story of two new characters each time, but they all eventually come together. And it's just, it's so exciting. It's set in space. It deals with viruses, rogue AIs. Oh, there's just so many things in this series that I was super pumped about. And it's told in mixed media format. So it's just such a unique way to tell a story. And it keeps you encaptured because there's not really like long chapters. Everything's happening at such a fast pace that you're hooked from start to finish. And that's what it was like for me. I was hooked and I could not stop reading them. And when I picked up these books, I couldn't put them down. They were just so good. So yeah, this series, hands down, I read the whole series this year and like it was amazing. Top notch. Also, if you notice my thumb, I got it wrapped up here because I got a paper cut from a Christmas card because that's how accident prone I am. So yeah, this is for my own protection. Then, to keep right on with the space theme, I'm also choosing Skyward. I read this in February, so it like just made the cut, but this book was fantastic. Spensa was an amazing main character. She was so funny. She's such a spitfire. She's like that go-getter character that you really want to succeed. Spensa just has such a passion for being a pilot, and it's just, you can see it so much as the story goes on and as she like becomes part of a team and works with these other people, even though she tends to like fight back with them attitude wise. But it's just such a really fun story to follow along with, and it kind of feels like a found family story, and I just really liked it. It was a lot of fun, and I really still need to pick up Starsight. I haven't read the second one yet, but the third one in this trilogy is not even out yet, so I'm kind of like waiting for that because then I can read them both at once and yeah, just dive back into the world. That was the good thing about the Illuminae series, is that all three of them are already out, so I could just binge them. But yeah, this is another good space book. So there's kind of a theme that the books that I like are set in space. I feel like I've said this before in a video. But the next book that I chose is Aurora Rising, another book set in space. And yeah, like I just really liked this one. This one was definitely found family trope. And Aurora was such an interesting, like unique character, but also the team around her, all of them were very different, but like they all had a really cool storyline that you kind of got to learn a little bit about each person's backstory as the main plot line went along. And it was so cool. I really enjoyed how this book played out. I still need to read Aurora Burning. As you'll know, I start a lot of these series and I haven't gotten on to the next one, but yeah, I also read this in November. So like this is a very recent read for me, but I definitely like flew through it and I really want to pick up the next one. So now all the rest of the books I'm going to show you are also set in space. So that's just it. No, I'm just kidding. The next book on my list is Seven Deadly Shadows. And this was an arc that I received. I read this one, I believe in October, and I loved this one. I feel like I was sleeping on this book because I had it since January, but it was just so good. The minute you pick this up, it starts off like with action right away, and you just go go go. There's no stopping, but it like, even so, you still get introduced into the world, you get introduced to the lore and all the different like spirits and kitsune that they're talking about in this book. It just flows so naturally, and you get all that information without it being dumped on you, which is really nice, because I know that in a lot of fantasies they have this large info dump, and it kind of, that's one thing about fantasy that kind of draws me out, is the huge info dump. And so I really liked and appreciated how naturally it flew through this one. I also really just liked learning about like kitsune and the different like Japanese spirits that it talked about. It was really cool, and I had a really fun time with that. And like, who doesn't want to read a book about a main character that has to team up with death gods to fight a demon king? Like, that's just a win-win right there. So yeah, this was a really good book. I really enjoyed it. I believe it's a standalone too, so who doesn't like a good standalone? Then we have The Speed of Falling Objects, and this is a book that I actually picked up not intentionally. I was visiting HarperCollins, and when Marisol was giving me a tour, she showed me a little table where they have like a bunch of arcs or uncorrected proofs, which this is an uncorrected proof. And she said, you can choose one of the books on here and take it with you. And so I picked up this one because I was really drawn to the cover, and this book blew me away. Like, I had no expectations going into this book, and I was pleasantly surprised. So this book is about a girl named Danny, and she has only one eye. She had like a childhood trauma or injury that took out one of her eyes. And her father is kind of like the head on this TV production show of like survivalists. So what they do is they hook up with celebrities and go out into the wilderness and survive together. And so she has the opportunity to go on this adventure with her dad while he is bringing on a teen like heartthrob celebrity. As they're going to the Amazon, their plane ends up going down into the Amazon, and so they're kind of stranded and having to survive for real. It's not the TV show anymore, they're actually surviving. And it was just, it was such a cool book. A lot of things that were in this book I feel like were pulled from a lot of research done, because a lot of the things kind of checked out for real survival techniques. And just the parental dynamic with her dad trying to be this survivalist leader, but also trying to be a father because he's not always there. It's just, it was so cool. I really enjoyed seeing the dynamic between the two and how it played out, and just this main character's resilience to get through so many things as she's in the Amazon trying to survive. It was a really cool book. I had a really good time with it, and I definitely was, I think I read this one in 2 days because like I didn't want to stop reading. I was just having so much fun. So yeah, this was something I wasn't expecting, and I'm really glad I picked it up. Next up is actually a middle book in a series, and this would be Wicked King. So I enjoyed The Cruel Prince. I really liked Wicked King, and then I liked Queen of Nothing, but I feel like it could have been a better ending and it didn't do that great. So like that book was probably the lowest for me, but Wicked King was definitely the top tier of that series. This book, you already knew the characters, so you were ready for what like shenanigans they were going to get into. And then the political intrigue in this book just like skyrocketed from the first book, which made it so much more intense. And you were just like waiting for everything to play out, kind of like a chessboard. And you're like the little overlord watching the chessboard and watching like all the different moves being played. It was just so cool. I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was a lot of fun. And of course, like it has Fae, which personally, I don't think I have read a lot of books with Fae in them. So that might be like why I like it so much, because it's something new to me. But the Fae that is represented in this book, I did like it, and I thought it was really interesting. Then we have another recent read, and that was Ember in the Ashes. I read this very recently. Really enjoyed this book. I gave it a 5 out of 5. I mean, most of these are 5 out of 5. Some of them actually aren't 5 out of 5, but like they still had that much of an impact that I chose them as the best book. But this one was just so good. I got some Hunger Games vibes from this book. I also was favoring a side character more than the main character, but I feel like that happens a lot of the time to me, as I always like the side characters more. But Helene in this book, oh, I love Helene. She just holds my heart. She deserves everything and more. And I've only read this first book, so I hope nothing bad happens to Helene in the other books, because I'm going to be upset. She's like the reason I'm going to continue this series. I mean, the main characters are okay, but like Helene was the best. This book did have a lot of elements to it that tied together very well. There was the whole rebellion group trying to go back against the masks, and I liked that it like gave you a little bit of introduction into the world, but not a lot yet. So I feel like it's going to expand more in the rest of the series. Certain elements of this book were very action packed. The relationships in this book were confusing, but that was intentional that they were confusing. And you could definitely see some sort of love triangle starting to form. So, I mean, if you don't like that trope, you might not like this book, but I thought it was all right with it, and it made the plot line flow very well. And then we have Recursion. I friggin' loved this book. It was, I read Dark Matter last year, and I read Recursion this year, and like, I still don't know which one of them I like more. I kind of just hold them on like an equal tier because they were both just so good in different ways, but just so good. This one's also just over 300 pages, so it's not like that much of a commitment to get into this book. But this was the one where people had this false memory syndrome where they would have these memories of a life that they never lived, but it just felt so real. So a detective teams up with a neuroscientist to try and figure out what this like false memory syndrome is and why people are being affected by it. And man, oh man, does it just like take off and go in a direction that I wasn't really expecting, but I loved it nonetheless. And so, yeah, I think that was really cool. And that's probably another reason why I gave it such a high rating and chose it as one of my best books, is because when a book goes in a direction I'm not expecting, but like surprises me, that's what I love. I love being surprised in books. I don't like when I can just predict everything because I find it predictable and not as fun. I like having the mystery of trying to figure out what's going on. So this book was top notch. And I couldn't not mention Battle Royale because this book I literally flew through. This was definitely a Hunger Games style. It was actually probably before Hunger Games. But this one is about a grade 9 class in Japan, and every year in their like government system, one class gets chosen to go to a not a deserted island. They actually take over an island and put all the kids on this island and give them weapons, and they have to fight to the death. And only one kid can survive. And if they survive, then they're like granted freedom, and they are given like riches and stuff. So needless to say, this book started off super intense and just like went right from the beginning to the end. I was pulled right in from start to finish. It's like 600 pages or more. Actually, yeah, it was like 640 pages. And I read it pretty fast because I was just right into it. The only thing is that some of the names were very similar, so it was hard for me to distinguish every once in a while. But like for the most part, I got everybody correctly. But yeah, there are definitely a lot of names in here that are very similar. It was also interesting to see like what each kid was given as a weapon because it was all random. So some kids got like powerful weapons and other kids got very useless weapons. So it was really interesting to see. I want more books like this and like the Hunger Games. I just like these styles of books. So I'm a dystopian reader. And then our second last one is They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. This one I did not expect to come into my best books list, but it just snuck its way in there. I read this very recently, and I don't know why, but like I got so attached to the two main characters, knowing that they're going to die at the end, because the title literally tells me they both die at the end. But I still let it like suck me in, and I still let myself get attached to them. I don't know why I did this. I did it to myself. But nonetheless, I still really enjoyed the way that this story played out. I enjoyed the interactions between the two main characters and how everything happened. I can't really say much about this because the book takes place over a span of 24 hours, and I don't want to give anything away. So yeah, but this book, it just like it hits home and leaves you thinking about the characters after it's over. So that's kind of why I felt that it was a good book for this year. And then the last one that I'm going to choose is, I'm going to end it on a high note, and that is Heartstopper, because this was just friggin' adorable. I read this in 30 minutes. It's super like simple graphics, but it's just so cute. And the story was just so lovey-dovey and fluffy. And it's exactly what I needed for this year of 2020 because a lot of it sucked. This was just a light, refreshing book to get my mind off of this year. And I'm really excited to read more of this series. I hope I get more of them for Christmas. But if I don't, I will buy them myself because I want more of this like fluffiness in books. And those are all the books that I chose as my best reads for 2020. Let me know in the comments down below what your best books of 2020 were, because I'm always curious to see like where we match up on book ratings and stuff like that. And I also just want to know what your favorite books were this year. Anyways, that's it for my video, guys. If you want to support me, I have a Patreon and a Ko-fi page, which I'll put in the description down below, as well as a link to buy my bookmarks. You know the drill. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that bell notification button so you know when I post videos. I post my videos on Monday and Thursday. And until next time, keep on reading.